Welcome, Bob, to Female Fitness Trainers Evening Podcast. It's so good to have you here with a live audience this time.
There we go. Is that Eve? Yo, Eve, what's going on? Eve and I go way back, way back.
Way back.
Way back. That's a New York thing.
Well, actually, when you say way back, for those people that have been living under a rock and have not been doing core boards and all of the amazing, wonderful stuff that you've done, maybe didn't catch the last podcast we did, do you think you could give us a very quick introduction to some of the amazing things that you've done?
Wait, you want me to talk about me? I'm too humble for that. I'm too humble, modest. Eve will tell you, shy, low key, just like you, Joanne. But that being said, okay, pre-fitness, just to get it snapshot, 13 years before I came into fitness, 13 years of corporate management training, 3 different corporations, aerospace, automotive, telecommunications. And through each of those environments, I went through a training process about operations management, business planning, market planning, operations planning. So unlike most folks who came into fitness first and then learned the business, I learned the business first and came into fitness. So that put me at a definite advantage to be able to bring business fundamental concepts into the fitness universe and the fitness empire, shall we say. And there is a picture of me, if you do a deep dive. I don't know if Eve's seen that picture of me with a mini afro, mustache, Van Dyke goatee.
Right to here.
That's right. Got it. That was me. So did that, came into aerobics, group exercise, personal training, management. And the funny thing about the management side was that the Equinox family that owned that, the Erical family, wanted me there because of my management training background, but there was someone there already who was the first fitness manager, Chris Imbo. So they couldn't really bring me on officially. So Chris decided that he didn't want to be a manager. He was a great trainer, but he didn't have those management training skills. But the politics being what it was, I was permitted to come out as a trainer. And when Chris decided to leave, okay, Bob, bullpen, get in there, take it over. And the rest was history after that. So my forte has been initially personal training / program development, staff training, and making money. That's it. If you want to make money, you came to me. If you didn't want to make money, you wouldn't come to me. So I had this green thumb from a US standpoint, and depending on whether you're in the UK, EU, Asia Pacific, Latin America, Africa, whatever, money is money. And we've developed that skill set to make people comfortable giving us their money because the value for the service is sitting right there. So that's basically what I've been doing. So I know we have a clock to work on.
Yeah.
Got it.
Because that's really the key, isn't it? How do we make what we love? And I love the fact that you've done everything that the trainers that are here today have done. Been personal trainers, been group exercise trainers, managed gyms, all those sorts of things. Right, let us share your screen, Bob.
Did he say money is honey? Right?
It rhymes, it works. Hey,
Here we go. You're right.
Okay, I'm going to hand you over, Bob. Can everybody see the screen that aren't driving?
The biggest challenge is unlocking best practices. Now, the question that Joanne put out there initially was, okay, you're missing out on potential clients. Find out why. That question is the tip of the iceberg. The basic issue and the basic consideration is this. Why should I hire you as my fitness professional? Number one. Number two, why should I stay with you? But number three, why should I refer to you because I am so happy? It's the first question Joanne put up, and I'm adding 3 more questions to it. But wait a minute, that sounds kind of complicated. Well, here's our challenge from a fitness standpoint. We are great scientists. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. But the soft skills are the basic challenge that we have a weakness in. So to answer those questions, where do we start, basically? So as an administrative thing, let me say, Joanne, can you see my slide, the screens? Because I can't see the PowerPoint on here.
We've just had a little technical hitch on that, and I'm just trying to find them, Bob.
Okay. So that being said, as we're going through that technical difficulty, I'm going to fill in. So that being said, the question is going to be, how do I know if I can really survive in this sector called fitness, health, and wellness? So in the old days, before we got into the business, we would say, okay, I'm certified, I'm ready to go, I'm going to charge X dollars, pounds, euros, whatever, but nobody shows up. How do I know what I'm doing wrong? Well, maybe if I wait long enough, 1 week, 1 month, 5 months, 5 years, maybe I can figure it out. That's a problem. That is a real problem. So one of the tools I brought into the fitness side is a self-evaluation tool. And the word is SWOT, S-W-O-T. Now, here's a funny side story. The first time I said SWOT, they said, oh, from the U.S. standpoint, the U.S. market, oh, you mean Hondo? Oh, you mean train? No, it's like boxer. No, not SWAT, the TV show. If you're in the UK, maybe it's the armed police or maybe it's SAS. I don't know, but not that side. It's SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So this screen that's right there right now, notice the quote. To back up a second, what if we don't change it all and something magical just happens? We laugh about it, but there are more fit pros who stand there and say just that and do nothing. So we're saying, as opposed to waiting for something to happen miraculously, we have to be proactive, bite the bullet, and say, okay, why am I having this problem? Why am I not making money? Now, fast forward 2024. If we go to the next slide, the issue of making money is real. As of this year, conservative estimates, our global wellness market is $1.8 trillion converted to pounds to euros to yen. 1.8 trillion. How do I get a piece of that is the basic issue. So if you do something right, everyone should get a piece of this. But if you're doing something wrong, it's never going to happen. So as we go to the next slide, we look at the SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Oh, is that just a self-evaluation, Bob? Yes, it is. Oh, I can do that. Here's the challenge. This requires the individual doing this to be deadly honest, which means that we have to take the decisions that we made to launch our business, self-reflect, and be deadly honest. Is this working, yes or no? As you go through the evaluation process, the first consideration is this: every decision that we made to launch the program, which now does not work, has an emotional commitment tied to it, which means that we have to self-reflect and say, hey, can I say to myself, I, Bob, or I, Joanne, or I, Karen, or I, Jasmine, made a mistake? You've got to be able to say, I screwed this up. I did something wrong. And if you can't say that, you're probably not going to do this SWOT right. So you have to look at what you did really, really well and what you didn't do really, really well. Where are the opportunities that you missed and what's potentially threatening my business growth opportunities? But again, as you go through that self-reflection, we have emotional ties tied to how we used to do things. So we really, really have to be honest. Do I have the wherewithal to say, I screwed this thing up? That's going to be the challenge. So now, there's two pieces to this. The first question is, if you think that you have the self-reflection skill set to say, okay, I made a mistake, I can fix this, and you can do this, great. If you don't think you have those skill sets, then what you need to do is to get a mentor or a coach to help you go through this process. So what we did last year with Faster in the UK, we went through the SWOT. And then the questionnaire, once they came back with their analysis, I asked follow-up questions to validate the content they put together. And coming from the States, coming from New York, I like asking nosy questions. And because I've been there, I've done that. So no one could hide behind the questions. Now, that being said, the objective of the SWOT is to take the passion that we have to monetize it, which means making money. So we have to self-reflect and really be honest about self-reflection. Now, here's the subset issues we have to address. If we look at the next slide, depending on how you run your business, one more slide. There we go.
Got one more, Bob.
One more, yeah. Perfect. And then split that up. Now, as you look at what you do and how you deliver your services, if you're working in a club, either as an employee or an independent contractor, there are very specific dynamics that's going to impact your SWOT. Number one. Number two, if you're working outside a club or a studio and you own your own business, the outside dynamics are going to be totally different than if you're working in a club. If you're doing 100% virtual, those dynamics are totally different than working outside a club face-to-face. Working in a club studio live is totally different. And then the fourth option is a combination of all of these things. But wait a minute, Bob, this is complicated. It's going to match your actual business practice. So if all you're doing is working in a club, easy, clean, but unique to that club studio. Outside, easy, clean, 100% virtual, totally different because everything is virtual and the combination. So if you have the self-confidence to evaluate this by yourself, fantastic. If not, then you go to someone else to help validate what it is that you've been doing. Okay, so now that being said, last year we spent 12 months plus in the UK basically looking at how everyone is running their business. And then as I did the SWOT initially, we kept on updating it over the course of 12, 13 months to see how the evolution happened. Some folks evolved really, really well. Some stayed the same and some went backwards. Some evolved better. Some stayed the same. Some went backwards. That's human nature. So now we developed a second tool within Faster to validate the actual SWOT analysis. So we can go to the next slide. The Faster organization gave me the opportunity to put together what we call the entrepreneurial questionnaire grid. We put together 15 questions. Some of the folks gave us some feedback in preparation for today. And this was done in December of last year with the folks at Faster. So as a sample, we had 6 samples come back. As you look at the summaries in the middle, those are the yes answers, and these are the no answers to our questions. And the questions all related to what makes up an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurial mindset, spirit, someone with passion in their mind, passion in their gut, and they want to go at it and make a killing. So of these 6 responses, we had one person give us 13 yeses and 2 nos. Great. 7 yeses, 8 nos. So we would take that response, match it up against the SWOT to validate this against the SWOT and vice versa. So the goal here would be to take those 8 nos and make them all 15 yeses. That's part of the coaching process that Faster developed over the past 12, 13 months. The third person had 14, 1 no, great. 11, almost there, 4 no's. Our goal is to make that 4, 0 and make everything 15. Number 5 was 9 to 6. The challenge here, the reason why there's a question mark there, because this individual rated themselves higher than what their actual SWOT gave us. So that was a challenge, but that's okay. That's part of the coaching process to validate one against the other. So now we have a check and balance system. The ultimate objective is to make this thing work and to make everyone successful with all 15s. And the last one there was 14 versus 1. This was all in the UK. If you look at the next one they came out to reflect what was being done today. So Joanne, if I can get the next slide, that would be fantastic. So we have 4 responses. First response, 11 yeses, 4 no. Second one, 8 yeses, 7. So our goal now is to get those 7 to make it 15 yes. The third one was very, very honest. We love honesty. We need to take those 11 no's and make them 15 yeses. And the fourth one was 12 yeses and 3 no's. Now, the reason why I highlighted number 1 and number 4 is this. I know number 1, I work with number 1, I work with number 4. Number 4's assessment is absolutely right. Number 1's assessment is questionable. Questionable. So I would take that one, go back to their SWOT, and do a cross-check of both, sit down with that individual who is really, really good. But what I'm finding is that the validation of 11 should really probably be a 4. But that's okay. No names, that's part of the process. But if we didn't do this, we wouldn't know that. So these are the tools that we use and we develop. And again, it was a process that came out of the Faster organization in the UK that we're able to bring this now globally. So this is giving us all kinds of information to make this basically happen. Here's the challenge as we go to the next slide. At the end of the day, and this is our challenge, and we talk about emotional considerations, is that this visual right here is reflecting as we go more and more from fitness only to health and wellness, primarily as a focused customer, that this is going to be the potential reality that we're going to see day in and day out. So the question we have is, do we have the emotional skill sets, the wherewithal to take this situation, which clearly should never happen, should never, ever happen because it's toxic, negative, and that individual customer will probably never come back. Number 1. And number 2, if you look at the arrogance of the Fit Pro, that's old school stuff. That stuff has got to go. But it still exists today to the point where if we look at the next slide, the issue for us going forward is how do we convert this slide to the next slide reality? There you go. The barrier is broken. There is a conversation going on. Both people want to be there. Number 2. Number 3, the customer feels that he is being listened to, and the Fit Pro is doing what? Is actually listening. There is a conversation going on. But not only is the Fit Pro listening to the spoken word, he is listening to the unspoken as well. Whole different dynamic that we basically don't get trained as we go through pure science. Basic challenge. So now, what does this mean?
I found this on the web for basics challenge. Check it out.
Not now, Siri.
Okay.
Okay, deep throat someplace. So now, here's the challenge. And going back to the initial question being, you're missing out on clients. Do we project, does Joanne project, does Jasmine project a comfortability, a safe environment for the people to come to us, to hire us, to stay with us, and to refer to us? If all we are is a one-dimensional personal trainer, group exercise instructor, and not evolving to something else, we have a problem. That something else we're evolving to is depicted right here. The evolution of the Fit Pro is instructor, coach, trainer, leader. If we have these concepts embedded in what we do day in and day out, and as how we do it day in and day out, guess what? The question that was initially asked by Joanne disappears. It totally disappears because we're creating an environment that's inviting, that's safe, that's secure, that's comfortable. But we're also creating a community where we bring all our customers together to do things. So for example, I do one-on-one training. I have a group exercise background. So I teach spinning classes. I teach small group training. I teach TRX classes. So my customers who go from one-on-one with me, they take my spinning classes. They do my TRX classes, for example. They set up their sense of community. Where Bob goes, I go. So now, but something happened in the middle of this whole thing. There were certain people who wouldn't come to my classes or my small group training sessions because they felt that Bob's kind of hard. So what happened was Jolene and I started training or team teaching spinning and team training TRX. So the people who had never come to my class, who would go to Jolene's class and vice versa, will come to our joint spinning class, because even though I was here and Jolene was here, when we taught together, something came together that was secure for everyone there. Same thing happened in TRX. They wouldn't come for Jolene by herself or me by myself. We do it together. It's a different dynamic. And the effectiveness of that, if you're familiar with Florida, in June, on a Friday, from May, June, July, and August, no one comes into a club at 4:30 in the afternoon in Florida. Nobody. We sold out TRX training, large group training, 20 people every Friday for those months. So again, it's a matter of how you take the instructor skills, the trainer skills, the coaching skills, become the leader, create the atmosphere, and bring people in. But again, these are the factors that go into looking at that SWOT. So yes, you're going to do a SWOT, but if you don't understand what the considerations are, the SWOT's going to be weak. The same thing will happen to the entrepreneurship questionnaire. It's going to be weak as well. So these considerations are critical as we go forward. Now, that being said, pull that slide. Now, fast forward. So last year we had 12 months of feedback from the folks from Faster, both who were in the global perspective and based in the UK. Also, I did 5 presentations or 5 workshops or conferences for Sarah Cooperman's SCW from the States. We collected the feedback from all those fit pros from Faster's organization and also from Sarah Cooperman's group as well. What came back was 8 identified roadblocks or challenges for fit pros. Now, I will give you that list, not here, but we're going to talk that one through, because the consideration is this. If we don't know how bad we are, or if we don't know what the expectations are, we're not going to be able to evaluate that. So here's the 8. We had a problem with identifying our target markets. Some folks want to be all things to all people. Now, initially, you're a trainer, so trainers have to train. So initially, you may have to do that, but at some point, you have to take this big universe of your customers and narrow it down to your target market. So once you have your target market, you start building your value proposition, which was, guess what? Item number 2. Why should I come to you? Why should I stay with you? Why should I refer to you? So once your target market's identified, or lack thereof, it's going to be a problem. You have to create that value proposition and make folks come. So there's 1 and there's 2 right there. Number 3, it has to be about the customer. So the concept is creating a customer-centric concept. It's all about the customer. But again, though, we have to make the customer feel what? Comfortable and engaging. The coaching skill sets off this grid comes out there. So these are the components that have to go into that SWOT analysis. Number 4, setting prices. Okay, well, if I'm setting prices, the issue is, what's the basis of my price? Well, I'm not in London, I'm someplace else, so I think I'm going to charge 100 pounds. I'm in New York City, I'm going to charge $125 per session. Okay, why? Because I want to. Where is the dollar amount tied to value, the V word? It's a basic challenge. We had more folks globally having trouble setting prices because there was no basis to set the price other than say, oh, okay, I want to set a price X or Y or Z. It's a problem. It has to make financial sense, has to make emotional sense in the eyes of that consumer. They have to know why I'm going to pay that and what the expectation is. Do I feel safe with that fit pro? Am I comfortable? Am I secure? Is there true empathy there? Those are the kinds of emotional skill sets that we have to develop, which has to be evaluated in the SWOT process as well. Okay. The other challenge is relationship building skills. So if you have the wrong target market and you have the inability to work with that target market, then you're going to have a disconnect. So given my background, I will probably work with baby boomers and millennials as my forte. Will I be comfortable training Gen Zers? Probably not, but I'm making that conscious decision. So part of your business is making those conscious decisions. But if you make the wrong decision, it should come out in the SWOT. And the corrective action should come out of the SWOT as well. And then where's your game plan to fix all those weaknesses and your game plan to correct those identifiable opportunities to build your business, grow your business, and make more money. That being said, social media. Okay, social media. But Bob, I post all the time. But are you posting with a goal? Are you posting with a plan? Are you posting with a call to action? No, 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 no. Well, guess what? It's not going to be responsive. It's not going to work. That's on one side. Then you have the other side that says, why should I post at all? I have a degree. I have 2 certifications. They should come to me. They should be happy that I'm available. Right, but they don't know who you are. They have no idea who you are. So why would they come? Now, I say this because I had a situation. I had 2 fit pros, one very well experienced, the other partner inexperienced, and they reinforced each other not to do social media because they felt they were all that, and no one showed up. So I said to them both one day, why would I show up to you? And the response was, I'm not good. But I don't know that. How do I know you're that good? And I get the stare in the face. It's like, oh, it's a challenge. This would come out in the SWOT. This would absolutely come out in the SWOT. And then we can fix it. But these 2 folks were so embedded into their egos and their emotions, they couldn't get out of the way. So they both failed as a challenge. Okay. Asking for customer testimonials. If we're doing a great job and our customers love us, we should be able to ask for testimonials and do what with it? Spin it into social media content that's responsive. Oh, wait a minute. That makes sense. That would come out of the SWOT as well. Are you doing testimonials? Well, I really don't feel comfortable doing that. I have a person in Minneapolis. I've been saying this to him. Now, I'm not there physically, so I really can't smack him in the head, but I've known him since 1999. And his thing is that if someone gets in front of him, he can sell them anything. I'll give him that. But they don't come to him because they don't know who he is. So when he complains to his studio owners, they feel sorry for him and they feed him clients, which is great. But that studio just closed up. Now he works for Lifetime Fitness. That doesn't happen in Lifetime. You have to go out there. So now his question to me is that, Bob, how do I do this? He should be on this podcast right now, and he's not here. Whole different issue. The other consideration is this. The certifying bodies, and I've had this conversation with everybody, focuses so much on the science. My suggestion to them is that how do we blend in the business component into the science that once we get certified, we can hit the ground running. Their response across the board, that's not their remit. That's not their job. So what they've done is they've added things on after people are certified. Okay. But most folks never get to that business stuff. So they leave, I'm certified, I'm ready to go, and don't know what to do. That's coming out of the SWOT as well. So the SWOT, if we know exactly what the expectation is to be successful, we can do a great SWOT. To the extent we can't get out of our way without our emotional baggage being put to the side, the SWOT's not going to work. Now, that being said, the only professional organization that has been providing science with business simultaneously is Faster. And that's why I'm working with the folks in the UK, because they said, Bob, this makes sense. Let's do this. So we've been doing it, and it basically works. So the challenge is, once you finish the Faster environment, the teaching learning environment, you're going to walk out the door, hit the ground running, because you have the blend of the science skills with the soft skills, which are basically the business skills. Once that's there, it's going to happen. So Joanna, if you can bring this up, click through there and look at some of the things we've done in terms of Faster. We have here the different skill sets that we've been using to build relationships to drive our business. Number one, Faster builds entrepreneurial mindset. Faster helps us identify target markets. It also helps us over the past 12, 13 months saying that if you want that market, do you really have the training to support that market? And if not, let's get you the market that supports your training. And if you want additional markets, you need what? Additional training. And there you go. How to create value propositions, how to create reasons for folks to come. And once they come, how to build a community. It's like, wait a minute. How does that work? By being proficient in emotional intelligence. And this is the key. And the key here is that, wait a minute, what is this thing called emotional intelligence? What is this thing called EI? So, Joanne, if we can go to the next slide. So, as we click through, the consideration is this. It's honestly, the ability to identify, manage emotions. Manage emotions. But it's not just the customers, it's ours. Wait a minute. You mean we have to self-reflect? Yes. If we self-reflect, guess what? The SWOT's easier. If we can self-reflect, the SWOT gets to be easier like that. Next slide, Joanne. So that being said, the definition is like the EI concept is it's not so much black and white. It's an art form, which is very subjective based on the individual mindset, culture, upbringing, how it developed, and the science, which is black and white, of personal and interpersonal effectiveness. Of personal and interpersonal effectiveness, which means what? We like to play with others. But wait a minute now. What group of folks who are fit pros play well with others? Group exercise plays well with others. The skill sets there are unbelievable for EI. And the next slide, it's also the ability to process emotional information. So as you're sitting down, talking to someone, you're processing everything they're saying before you interject. So we teach you, Faster teaches you how to process that. But again, though, it's what's spoken, unspoken. It's body language, which is not spoken, but it's movement. It's like, but again, it's not just about the customer, it's about us. So if we look at the next slide, what we've done over the years with Faster, you have 4 different components of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, that's us. Social awareness, relationship management, that's about the customer. Once we take these and bring them together, from a business standpoint, those skills help us with our SWOT. Those skills help us with the SWOT and the entrepreneurial questionnaire. So the question that Joanne asked initially disappears if we have this training. And this is what's critical. Now, that being said, if we go to the next slide, we're going to take the customer who comes in with all kinds of emotional baggage. Now, if someone is fitness focused, they're going to have fitness focused emotions / baggage. If they're coming in with health and wellness, they're going to have health and wellness focused emotional baggage. We have to be able to take that input coming in, figure out what it is they basically need, create an outcome, and then we're going to hit the next slide. And from our standpoint, from a basic business standpoint, we're going to create the customer journey. And the journey isn't going to be one size fits all. It's going to be customized with a short-term goal, medium-term goal based on how they do short-term. And then once the midterm goals are achieved, it's going to be long-term goal. We're going to manage that process. It's like, wait a minute, this is hard work, Bob. That's what they're paying for. The hard work goes where? Into the pricing. So now there's a correlation between hard work, great outcomes, great results, happy customers that's specific with their own goals, and all of a sudden, we're building and growing our business. So now it's no longer something that's abstract. We bring it all together. But until we started looking at the self-evaluation model, the SWOT, it was like a theoretical, mental, abstract exercise. But once you break it down, it's like, wait a minute, why didn't I do the SWOT before? It is so obvious why you need to do it, but until you go through this process, you never fully understand that. And that's okay. That's part of the process, because when I started out, I had no idea what this was. So I had to go through my learning process as well as Joanne, as well as Jasmine's been going through this as well. So again, that's part of that process. But at the end of the day, we can guarantee you that if you take control of our emotions, take control of your emotions, and self-reflect on the SWOT, looking at your strengths, your weaknesses, and be deadly honest, the opportunities and the threats to our business, we can make an adjustment. So as an example, a threat to our business, the recession / inflation, depending on where you are geographically. So if someone says to you, okay, I start with you with personal training one-on-one, but I can't afford to keep paying this. Okay, if I can't afford to pay it, what programming options can I, as their Fit Pro, create to make it easy for them? Maybe it's a 2-on-1 as opposed to a 1-on-1. Maybe it's a small group from 3 to 8 to drop the price even more, just to keep them in the mix and keep them engaged with their fellow community members in my organization. So it's like, oh, I have different options. It's a threat, 1-on-1, but my solution and my opportunity is 2-on-1, small group, large group. Starts to change. So again, as we come out of the slideshow and go through a series of Q&As, which again, there's no such thing as a bad question or leave it as a bad question. The focus is we're finishing up the first month of 2024. So the first question is, are we financially hitting our number for January 2024? Yes or no? That's the first question. The second question is, if I am, fantastic. If I'm not, why not? That's the question. Why not? Where's the breakdown? What mistakes did I made with my assumption? Maybe my business assumption for the 12 months of 2024 were wrong. So for example, I'm working with a Faster Fit Pro who does personal training, group exercise in the UK, and she has an expectation for January, hit the ground running. The problem is that the school issue for her is that her target market was so busy for the first 7-8 days of January that they were so preoccupied with their home and their partners and their husbands and their kids that it's like, oh, I couldn't get into the classes. So she's like pulling her hair out, pulling this blonde hair out. It's like, take a deep breath. Why didn't they show up? We talked through it. So after 20 minutes of talking through it, we realized, okay, holidays lasted longer, had to take care of the kids, do the shopping, school, the weather came into play in the UK. And now she has more people showing up. She's taken her deep breath. What she lost in January, she'll make up in February. But it's self-reflection. First, she blamed herself. Let's talk about the circumstance. We understood the circumstance. It became a non-issue. So now she knows what she has to do in February to make up the shortfall for January. Something as simple as that, as a consideration. So that being said, Joanne, what do you think?
I think there's so much to take away from that, and I hope people have got some questions bringing it in. What I loved was the way that you talked about listening, and that's something that we spend a lot of time going through on motor skill application specialists, because it's absolutely key. One of the things I wondered whether you could give any tips on, you did say it can be difficult to self-evaluate, and I love that you said you know, it's okay to get it wrong, because sometimes we feel, you know, that we're holding up this standard to somebody else, or you know what's going to happen if someone knows that I did that, or I didn't make that particular target. So any tips for that?
Well, the first thing is, long as you know you're trying, don't kill yourself. But if you're not doing anything, that's a different issue. So it's a business. And again, one of the things that came out of the Faster relationship with me is that Faster, as a teaching learning organization, works with the certifying body SimSpa in the UK. So everything that's happening with Faster now, there's a conversation with the certifying bodies in the UK, which gives me absolute joy to get the business in the front end of the process as opposed to the back end of the process. And the fact that the folks at Faster have conversations every week to talk about overcoming obstacles and challenges is something that rarely happens in the States. It rarely happens, but it's happening there, which makes me feel comfortable doing my work in the UK right now as I'm launching back in the United States. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions they'd like to put to Bob? You've got him here now. Go for it.
Hi, Bob. It's Jasmine.
Jasmine.
How often is too often to do a SWOT analysis?
Okay.
I could do one daily.
That's okay. And okay. So it's going to depend on what it is you're trying to do. So you have, this is 2024. You have your income plan set out for 2024. So what you have to do is not wait to see how well you're doing in December of 2024. You should be looking at that every month. So you take your annual number for 2024, for example, break it down to 12 months. Now, each month has a different set of days. So the financial income is going to change month to month. So for example, you have 28 days in February. So those numbers will be different than March or June or September. Then you have vacations in there. And you have, in the UK, bank holidays. That's all going to impact your monthly numbers. But if you track it once a month in terms of those financials, that's okay. Now, that being said, the other piece you have to look at is the folks you get in, you recruit. How long are they staying? If they're staying, fantastic. If they're not staying, that's a red flag issue. So, situation in the States, $150 per training session. The Fit Pro sells a package. Person comes in, starts to train, and then starts to not show up. But they already paid for the package. Then it went from not necessarily showing up consistently to not showing up at all and leaving the package. What happened with that's a whole nightmare, but nobody's asking that question. That's a problem. That's a real nightmare right there. They thought the service was worth paying 10 times 150 up front, but they're not coming back. Why aren't they coming back? And if that's happening to that customer, what's happening to the other customers? It's probably happening across the board as well. That's a problem. That's a problem. So it really depends. If you're starting something brand new, a new project, a new program, you want to evaluate it before you start it, as you launch it, and within 30, 60, 90 days, keep looking at it to make sure it's on track. Once it's on track, let it go. Let it go.
This is one of the things that even within our sessions when we're teaching motor skill application is to actually speak to the client at the end of the session. What did they like? What was their challenge? What they didn't like? You know, getting that feedback early, creating that experience.
Yeah. And honestly, the challenge and the focus, all these issues are built into the Faster programming model. No matter what course you take, it's built in, and there's an accountability factor as well. You're taught and you're trained to look for breakdowns in that relationship before it happens. But again, you have to self-reflect. You have to be honest. Did I mess up? And if you say, yeah, well, okay, why did I mess up? How did I mess up? How do I fix that? How do I fix it as well?
I have to call time on this because Bob's already on half an hour overtime. So you can put that one back to Thursday evening. All right, because believe it or not, there is a paywall.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
And Bob can go into all of that nitty-gritty detail on the business course as well. So if that's okay, Alex, because they're great questions, but I think that we might be rushing some of those questions in the answer.
Okay, sure.
If that's all right. And I would love to get you back on, Bob, because I would actually also like to ask you a little bit more about charging your worth, that type of thing as well. And
Yeah.
also the process behind actually investing, because sometimes people are looking at their SWOT analysis and they may be saying, I want more clients, but it's that danger of going, well, I'm not going to invest in my education because I'm holding back, whereas actually what they need to do is get community support potentially.
Exactly. But you know what, though? You used the interesting word investment, because when we talk to customers, we're not talking about price per se. We're talking about them investing in their health and wellness. We're asking them to invest in their longevity. That's a whole different conversation spin. And that's, in fact, we're going to do that on Thursday in our once a month program. Longevity. How do you spin that into your programming opportunities? Yeah, because now it's like, it's an investment. It's not money, it's an investment in me in terms of that customer. Yeah.
Fantastic. So do you have a closing little tip for everybody before we let you go and have some lunch?
I think that the biggest thing is that we're in this business because we love it. We have the passion for it, which is great, because the customers love the passion. But if they get the results, they feel comfortable paying for it. So the phrase monetizing passion is okay. Don't feel bad about it if your quality is there. Now, if your quality is not there, that's a different issue. That's a different conversation. But if the quality is there, they're investing in longevity. Different conversation.
It's been a brilliant evening. And I think there's so much to take away from that. Thank you, everybody that's turned up to the call, and to those of you that are listening on the repeat.
Thanks, gang.